Hello, viewers, and welcome to my review of the new Parkway Drive album, Ire. I don't normally post reviews on this channel, but Parkway Drive is one of my favorite bands, and after listening to this album about 15 times now, I have to say it's truly an amazing music experience. It's just a really sick album, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on it. So first, I'm just going to briefly go over how I became a Parkway Drive fan. I started getting into them around the time Deep Blue came out in 2010, and the first song I ever heard by them was "Romance Is Dead," and I was instantly hooked. That song today is one of my favorite Parkway Drive songs. Still, it's just such a good song. It still holds up, and they've definitely changed since then. That song was on their first album, or technically second album, "Killing with a Smile" in 2005. They've definitely changed their sound over the years from album to album. Not a single Parkway Drive album sounds like another. They all sound different, and that's what I like about this band. There's a lot of variety. I thought Don't Close Your Eyes was a really good debut album, very raw. Killing with a Smile, even better. Horizons, I didn't like as much as Killing with a Smile. I know a lot of people say that Horizons is the best Parkway Drive album, but I just don't see it. Um, it's one of my least favorites. I would say Don't Close Your Eyes is probably my least favorite, but that's not saying much really because I like all the albums, but I don't know. Horizons just didn't hit me the way it hit a lot of people. Deep Blue, I thought was their best album at that point. Really cool album. I like the concept of it. Atlas, it's hard to say which I like more between Deep Blue and Atlas because they both change from time to time. I would say Deep Blue is more consistent, where Atlas is less consistent, but Atlas has some of my favorite Parkway Drive songs ever. Um, like The Blue and the Gray and Sleight of Hand are definitely two of my favorite songs, and that kind of makes up for it. So now that brings us to Ire. Okay, so one thing I will mention before I start talking about Ire, I always enjoyed the melodic side of Parkway Drive rather than the breakdown side. I know a lot of people listen to them for their sick breakdowns and their heaviness, but I always preferred the melodic stuff. I still do like the breakdowns, but just I don't know, the more melodic stuff that started with, well, it kind of started with Horizons, although it wasn't as prevalent. um, Deep Blue pushed the melodic side even further, and Atlas had some really crazy melodic songs, Blue and the Gray for instance. So this album was streamed on Twitch the other day. I believe it was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday. And this album doesn't officially come out till the 25th, but they stream the whole album, and it's available like pretty much everywhere on YouTube. And I managed to catch this stream, and I listened to the whole thing, and I was just blown away. Before going into it, I did expect some changes because I know in interviews Winston was saying how much this album would divide fans even further, and he isn't wrong in that regard, but it wasn't as different as I thought it would be. Um, there's some tracks. One track in particular really surprised me in a good way, but more or less it's the same old Parkway Drive. I mean, there's breakdowns there. There's less breakdowns though, I should mention. There's the melodic stuff. There's heavy riffs, good riffs, great songwriting. Uh, I would compare this, I guess, to Atlas because, well, Atlas was the last album, so obviously it would sound something like that. But it still has its own unique sound. It's not as like dark, I guess, as Atlas. Atlas had some really gloomy songs, but this album has a lot of anger. So let's just get into the tracks. We'll go track by track. I'll just say my thoughts on them. So the first track is Destroyer. It's not the usual intro this time around. Usually they have like a really brief interlude song. Like in Atlas, we got Sparks. In Deep Blue, it was Samsara. Um, Instead, we have like a close to 5 minute long track. It has a nice build up in the beginning. The main riff kicks in. I do have to say the main riff sounds kind of similar to the one in Vice Grip, which is, I don't know, that kind of bothered me a little bit. I would say the Vice Grip riff is still better, but this is a really solid intro. The drums in particular are outstanding. There's some really sick fills all throughout the song, especially in the ending. Really sick. Overall, really good intro. Next track is Dying to Believe. Probably the heaviest song on the album. Sick chorus. There's a really fucking huge breakdown in this song, where Winston says, "How do you sleep at night?" That part, yeah, that's fucking amazing. Heaviest song on the album, one of the best on the album. Next song is Vice Grip, the first single. This was released a long time ago. Really awesome music video too, for those who haven't seen it, but I don't know how you haven't seen it yet if you're a Parkway Drive fan. Very melodic, maybe the most melodic song on the album other than the ending track. I find it kind of funny because this song actually pissed off a lot of fans for being too happy, I guess, or too melodic. But I was instantly hooked. This is still one of the best songs on the album. Really catchy. The chorus is very inspiring. It gives me goosebumps, actually. It's just a really strong chorus, and the lyrics are very uplifting and nice. Um, Other than that, not much to say. It's just a really good song. There's a solo at the end, too, which is really cool. And that brings us to the next single, Crushed. This song, at first, I don't know, I didn't really like it, but the more I listened to it, the better it got. It starts off with like ritualistic chanting, which is kind of cool. And then Winston screams, "Crushed by the fists of God," and then you got a massive, sick riff that will stay stuck in your head for days. It's just really catchy. The verses have like some clean guitar in the background, and Winston does some kind of like spoken word stuff, which is kind of cool. A lot of people say this track is Rage Against the Machine influenced. It kind of shows, but I don't know. It's a good track. It's just a really strong track. Really easy to get into. One of the best. The next track is Fractures. This track was released a little bit early. I think it was the fourth single, fourth or fifth. Very melodic. There's some whoa-ohs in the chorus that kind of remind me of Wild Eyes a little bit, which was one of my favorite songs from Atlas. There's not really much to say about the song. It's like I said, it's kind of like Wild Eyes. Not as heavy as some of the other songs, but still really, really good, really strong song. And there's an awesome solo at the end, but it fades out way too fast, which is very disappointing. That's probably the only thing I have to nitpick about it. But yeah, a really strong track. The next track is called Writings on the Wall. This was the track that really surprised me. I did not expect this at all. It starts off with like a violin intro, and then there's very weird vocals from Winston, where he's not even like singing or growling. It's just spoken word pretty much. And there's some piano in the background, which is really cool. And the drums kind of remind me of "We Will Rock You" by Queen. It's kind of funny. And they do repeat the same lines a lot, like "Put your hands up, put your hands up." But I don't know. It's a really catchy song, really easy to get into. Nice sound dynamics. Some people could argue it's a bit anticlimactic because you kind of expect a huge build up to like an epic breakdown or something, but the breakdown never comes. And people, like I said, people could say that's anticlimactic, but I like how they don't do it because it would be kind of too predictable. And then the song ends with a nice piano riff. Really, really beautiful. And that brings us to the next track, Bottom Feeder. This was also released a little bit early. What can I say? It's a monster track. People say the verse kind of sounds like Smooth Criminal. I kind of see it, but I never really got that impression at first. The pre-chorus and chorus kind of sound like Before I Forget by Slipknot, which I did notice, but it doesn't really bother me that much. I'm not a Slipknot fan, and I really hate that song, but I don't know. It didn't really bother me that much. It's not like a direct rip-off or anything. It's just kind of like the same dynamics that were used in that song. And I really like the small subtleties in the song, like during the second verse, they add in some snares, some extra snares. And there's a really sick breakdown at the end of the song. I believe like only the second breakdown so far on this album, but it's absolutely sick. And the ending is really funny too. And the next track is The Sound of Violence. This was one of the tracks that was released early as well. First glance, I thought it was like really average. It never really stuck out to me. But it has a really heavy and easy to get into chorus, and it's kind of catchy. There's really not much else going on in the song. It's really straightforward. Um, I wouldn't call it my least favorite on the album though. It's still really cool. The next track is Vicious. Starts off with a clean intro, and I believe there's like a solo in the middle, which is really cool because there's not many solos on this album, unfortunately. And with a name like Vicious, you expect it to be more angry, but then there's this part where Winston goes, "Burn it all to ash," and that part is fucking insane, to say the least. Uh, Other than that, catchy chorus, really cool song. This was like one of my least favorites at first, but it really grew on me fast. Next song, second last song, Dedicated. It's probably the second heaviest song on the album. I didn't really think the guitar was anything special because, I don't know, it just didn't really stick out to me. But the lyrics are really good. And this song also has a breakdown near the end, which a lot of people are saying is the best breakdown on the album. I don't know if it's the best to me, but it's still really good. But overall, I don't know, it's really hard to pick a least favorite track. I might pick Dedicated as my least favorite, but I don't know. It's really hard because they're all so good. But yeah, it's still a good track. Fans of the earlier Parkway Drive will absolutely love this one. Probably call it their favorite. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely check this one out. And after all those great songs, we get the final song on the album, the longest one at pretty much 6 minutes. Going into this album, I expected this song to be a slow and more melodic one, kind of in the same vein as Blue and the Gray and Horizons. And it is. It's a slow song, very melodic, very powerful. This is easily my favorite song on the album. It took no time to grow on me. It starts off with an acoustic guitar intro, and then there's this reoccurring guitar melody, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's just so good. The chorus is really epic too, and it has a nice vocal effect. I can't really explain it. I thought it sounded like auto-tune, but I don't think it is. It's just, it could be layered vocals. I'm not sure. I'm not like very knowledgeable about that stuff, but I don't know. It sounds badass. That's all I really can say about that. And there's, just like Blue and the Gray from the previous album, there's a long solo, and there's some nice drum fills in there. And then the epic riff returns, closes out the album, and they even add some violins at the end to make it even more powerful. I believe I actually cried the first time I heard this song because it was just that good. The only other Parkway song that made me cry was Blue and the Gray, but that's because those lyrics really speak to me. But that's a different story. So this album was a long time in the making. It was like 3 years since Atlas, which isn't that long of a time, but it was a long wait for me because I was just anticipating what this band would do next, and this band did not disappoint. So far, this is probably my pick for the best album release of 2015. The only album that could possibly beat it would be Children of Bodom's I Worship Chaos, but that's mainly because I'm hugely biased because they're my favorite band. But if Parkway keeps releasing albums like this, they're gonna be my favorite band. They're already like my second or third favorite band right now. But yeah, sick album. Definitely pick it up on the 25th. Support these guys. They fucking deserve it. They put a lot of fucking time and effort into this album, and it showed. Just like to do all their albums, but this one was truly an amazing experience. I don't know if I'd rank it above Atlas or Deep Blue, because where it's so new, it just came out. I'll have to let it sink in a little bit more. But as of now, it's probably tied with those. And if I had to give the album a rating, oh, this is hard. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. It's not perfect, like I said. Um, some songs sound kind of samey. There's a few things I can nitpick, like I said about Fractures, the ending solo fades out too soon, but those, I don't know, those are kind of minor, I think. But yeah, just really good album. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10, maybe nine and a quarter out of 10. Parkway Drive, Ire, September 25th. I know what I'll be blasting in my car.